Welcome everyone to a new chapter of Sin Malditas Excusas, or in English, No Damn Excuses. Today, Friday 9th of December, the year is almost over, and we have an amazing guest. As always, let me read about our guest. Our guest today is from Africa. He has a Bachelor of Social Sciences, postgraduate diploma in management, marketing, and an MBA from University of Cape Town. And he has worked as CEO, copywriter, digital account manager, newsroom officer, digital content specialist, and last 5 years making a career at Savant Venture Fund and reaching his current position as a general partner. Apart from outreach and key stakeholder relations, he also takes a hands on approach to due diligence, deal structuring, execution, monitoring, and evaluation. He's actively involved in helping ventures put together building blocks for commercial success. Do you have the courage to follow your dreams like Thaheer, or will you be a dreamer forever? Let me introduce to our friend Thaheer. Did I pronounce correct your name, Thaheer? Is it
That's
Thaheer?
that's that's 100% perfect. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Oh,
That was an amazing intro.
welcome, welcome. Where are you located right now, Thaheer?
So right now I'm at home because it's 7 p.m. I'm in Cape Town, in South Africa. So that's where we headquartered, and that's where I find myself most of the year.
Amazing. What's the temperature over there right now?
Right now it's cooling down, so I would say it's somewhere around 20 degrees. But it was a lot. It was probably closer to 30 earlier in the day.
All right, all righty. So probably a lot of people that is not from Africa or Cape Town, they don't know who you are. Can you tell on in your own words who are you?
I'm everybody's guy. So I'm a people's person, or at least I like to believe that. I believe that relationships are like human connections. That's the thing that carries us. That's the thing that we live for. Those are the things that we live for. And when we leave, that's what people remember. So that's just a little bit about what I believe and who am I. I do like to be outside whenever I can. I like to hike. I've got a bicycle that I don't use, but I intend to use it. When I can go to the gym, I do like to gym as well. And when I'm not doing any of that stuff and I'm not working, I'm also just keeping busy. So I like to do DIY work as well. So I might build. One of the things I'm thinking of doing is building a coffee table. That sort of thing. So.
Amazing, very good. So I'm quite intrigued on how was your childhood when you were living in Africa? Because you were you born and raised in Africa?
Yeah, so born, raised, bred in Africa, specifically born, raised, bred in Cape Town. And I'm still in Cape Town. I've only spent about 1 year outside of South Africa, and that was in South Korea teaching English. So that was a very interesting experience. But so I grew up here. It's a very interesting, it's a story for me at least. Just looking back, but you don't know it when you go through it, right? But looking back, you sort of you realize, what was behind your experience and that sort of thing. So, I was born in '86, and South Africa was only really freed in '94. Right, so growing up, we still had like the legacy issues that came with, the previous oppressive regime, and a part of that was a big part of that was the regime was really there to oppress certain people, and it went not just from education and jobs and that sort of thing, but even the layouts and the infrastructure and the access to services and all of that. It was specifically designed to keep people separate and that sort of thing. So growing up, even though the laws had changed, I was still sort of subject to that spatial planning. So when I grew up in the community that I grew up in, everything was always inward looking. So
Mm.
and my worldview was incredibly small, growing up. And my mother, being the person that she is, she always wanted me to experience more and see more than what was just in front of me. So, even though I went from one community to the next to go to school, and I could have gone to school in the one community, that in itself was a way for me to just to get out there. And in doing so, I actually ended up doing fencing, you know, and fencing got me a scholarship to one of the most prestigious schools in our country, and that really exploded my worldview. Trying to see that these things that I see on TV is actually real.
Mm.
It's like it's 5 to 10 kilometers away. It's actually here. So that there was that. So that was basically my childhood. Again, education was the way to my mother saw that as the way to broaden the perspective. So getting me out to schools, and then every Saturday, I'd go out of the community into another community to do karate, and after karate, going to the library. And my mother didn't have much, but she tried her best. And
Mm.
as tired as she would have been, I'm at the library every Saturday, 2 to 3 hours, trying to pick the next 4 books that I want to read this week.
Mm.
So I mean that was basically my childhood. That changed when I got older, but I mean, yeah, that's growing up for me.
Amazing. So you were very connected with studies, and books were your thing, and you were encouraged by your mother to actually pursue some sort of profession that would allow you to be a better person and obtain probably the things that you have already obtained nowadays. Um, in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship, how do you see like the ecosystem, or can you tell us a little bit about how the ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship in Africa is working nowadays?
So Africa is huge, so we're going to speak very broadly here, because I mean, there's a lot happening in all the different countries. Some countries are going through startup booms. Some countries and they're doing that just because of the stage of the economy. Others are going through the same booms or trying to start those booms because of new legislation that enables that facilitates that. And there's a lot of interest in the continent, and because there's a lot of opportunities, right? And those opportunities, sadly, come from, conditions that are prevalent in many of the territories, where there's poor infrastructure, and lack of services and that sort of thing. So you're finding all these exciting opportunities that can be addressed, that address real world problems, actually due to the failings of the system and infrastructure, rather than just like if you were to go to North America, some of these things wouldn't be as prevalent. They probably do exist, but they wouldn't be as prevalent, and you wouldn't be able to have a multi-country business case based on solving these issues. So there's all of that, and there's a big boom. There's a lot of attention being put now on early stage businesses across the continent. We're starting to see a lot of success coming out of it, and I'm excited to see that. And with that, we're actually getting quite a bit of ecosystem builders popping up as well. So entrepreneurship support organizations, so accelerators, incubators, and venture building studios. So there's actually quite a lot happening across the continent, and as much as you might actually find in the innovation ecosystem that you've got your big economies, so South Africa, Egypt, etc., etc. They're the big five, but you're finding in these smaller countries now, they're seen as frontier markets, and people are saying actually these countries have the potential to do extremely well, and they're being overlooked because all the attention is going into these bigger economies. So now you're finding, the interest is sort of, it's spreading away inward. There's still a lot of interest there, but there's a lot of like early stage funding and people seeking out new opportunities in these frontier markets. So I think, yeah, there's a lot happening across the continent.
That's very nice. And in terms of the entrepreneurs or people that is working towards different kind of problems, do you
Yeah.
see that everyone is from Africa, or are you seeing people from all across the world that is arriving to Africa to trying to solve different kind of problems?
It's both, actually. So what we're seeing is that there are people, for instance, the people that we support, that have been supporting predominantly, they are from the continent and they've grown up and they've been educated either here or abroad, but they're very close to the problems at heart, and they're trying to address those. What we also see is, and that's people just coming through the system and just experiencing what they experience locally. But then we're finding people, who are from sort of the diaspora communities, who have this expanded world experience, and they're seeing new things and new ways of operating, and they're bringing a lot of that home and solving problems here based on what they've seen, and the networks that they've built abroad. And then we also see people from abroad, who have a genuine interest in, starting businesses, solving problems, coming up with new innovations. So we see we see that migration, and people bringing resources and knowledge from other territories into across the continent to sort of resolve issues, and with a genuine heart for, I want to make a difference. But then there are people who are also like, hey, this model hasn't been deployed there yet. I know that it works here. I'm just going to take that model and transplant it in these different territories. And that doesn't always work. In fact, not most of the time it doesn't work. But yeah, we're seeing a bit of both. So people from the continent, and then people also from outside of the continent. And I'm not against one or the other. I think it's great to have additional perspectives, and it's great to actually use additional perspectives to enhance your perspective.
Excellent, very good. So if we talk right now about Savant, is it Savant Venture Fund? Savant Venture Fund?
So it's actually, so I went into the organization saying Savant, and after a while I got corrected. So it's actually Savant.
Savant.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So why specifically did you decide to go to work for a venture fund? Taking a look at your career, you somehow were more like in kind of digital marketing and other kind of things, and I'm guessing here that after you got like your what is it, like master, the MBA, you pursue like other kind of industry. Okay, can you explain a little bit what happened there, so we can get it right?
So yeah, so I think to answer that, I'm going to dial it back a few years, right? So again, we're going back to my mother. She had a really great influence on me, and allowing me to make decisions, and allowing me to sort of plot my own path forward. So a lot of the time when you come from struggling communities, you get told what to do. Go do this, go do that, go do that, because you need to make money, and this isn't going to make money. My mother never put that burden on me. She said, go do what you want to do. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So or at least I thought I knew at the time, but it actually, the affinity wasn't there. The signs were there, but I didn't know to know that those were signs that early on. So I went and I studied a social sciences degree, and I did sociology and English, and I learned quite a bit and I enjoyed it. But in hindsight, it wasn't my passion. It definitely added value to my perspective and my life, but it wasn't my passion. So because it wasn't my passion, I went into the workplace and I was like, well, this is not for me. Then I went back and I did the marketing qualification, the marketing management qualification, because I knew that I actually wanted to do something in business, but I didn't know what it was. But I figured that marketing was creative, but it was also businessy. So, okay, let's do marketing. So then I moved into marketing, and I was good at what I did, but I didn't have a passion. I could do the work, I could get the results, I could bring the results home, but I always wanted to do more or something else or more, and I was just struggling to get out of that. And I thought the MBA was actually an excellent opportunity to do that. So that's why I started the MBA. So I was like, if I do this MBA, I can go and do strategic things for businesses. That was my goal. And then in doing the MBA,
and how did you knew that doing an MBA you would somehow get like the final picture of what you actually wanted in life?
I didn't. I didn't, and that's the thing. So I went into the MBA knowing that it would help me, but not necessarily knowing what I wanted, and that's being honest. So I said to people, "This is what I want to do" when I applied for the MBA. But in all honesty, I made that up because I knew that I wanted to do something that was more business and strategic, and that was a great stepping stone to do that. And that is the pure reason why I did the MBA. But during the MBA, it was really, really beneficial because I got exposed to all these other minds. We had people from Poland, India, Japan, China, just literally all across the globe, Brazil, we had Zimbabwe, we had Zambia, we had Canada, like literally from all over the globe.
Nice.
And I just learned so much from so many different people. And in the way that they structured the courses, right? You had these financial modules and these innovation modules that were core. You couldn't opt for those. You had to do those. And when I did those, I was like, this is it. Something here, right? So when it was my chance to elect additional modules, I did things around company evaluations and entrepreneurship, courses and that sort of thing. So I pursued that, and that was great. And I thought, hey, maybe I should be an entrepreneur because this is actually giving me a lot of energy. So Savant was actually, at the time when I joined Savant, which was literally immediately after my MBA, they didn't have the venture fund. All they had was, well, not all they had. I mean, they had built a significant organization at that point with a decent portfolio. But the focus when I got there was, building out and supporting the incubator portfolio. So we had an incubator that was supporting organizations, helping them with their vision, helping the team, helping them build technologies that's with a commercial mindset, helping them fundraise, doing their modeling and helping them with their strategies and executing on those. And I was excited about that because I was actually taking the stuff from my MBA and putting it straight into these businesses, and I was getting my actual experience. Half the time when you work somewhere after graduating, you use a fraction of what you've actually learned. And I was actually able, because these businesses are so early, and founders can sometimes at the very early stages be all over the place. I got to use everything to help them move forward. And that's actually why I stayed, because it was quite exciting building these things. And I was learning from them as I was helping them. And, my vision was like, at the time it was, I'm going to keep helping them and learn and take those learnings and put it into my startup, and I
Mm,
tried a few things, but it didn't really gel with me. I realized that I was actually much better at supporting entrepreneurs
mm.
than I am starting,
Your
new
own.
ventures.
Mm,
So yeah, so that's how that happened. And then, after 4 years of doing that for startups, I moved over. So about, I think, 2 years after I started, we launched the venture fund, and I was doing some support work there and that sort of thing. And so it just made sense, after 4 years, to actually just move over into the fund, because that's where, I was having, I had the opportunity to have the biggest impact, and I could actually take my
mm.
learnings of working with these founders over the past few years, and pour that into the venture fund as well. So that was great. And then, so yeah, man. I think
That's amazing.
in a month's time, I would have been at Savant for 6 years. So
Nice, very good. So you brought like all of the things that you were learning in your master program. The company allow you to implement all of that. You start loving it. You start seeing that that was your thing, and it's amazing that a company actually allows you to do that, because most of the times there are procedures or uh, processes that are already installed inside the company, so it's very difficult to bring new things. And if I could ask you as well, because you have been working for that company for almost 5 years, what are your
almost
greatest
six.
learnings? Oh, six, sorry.
Yeah.
What do you think are your greatest learnings today?
If I have to think about it, I think one. Okay, there are a few things, right? But I mean, I think the two things in particular that I think is very important, and it's relating to founders and even advisors. When you're helping founders, it's about just being nimble,
Hmm.
because at early stage, everything goes up, everything goes down, everything goes left, everything goes right at any given point in time. And if you're dead set in your ways, and you're not reacting to the environment, you're building a product and you realize, that if you build it a certain way, the price point is not going to be conducive for you to actually get onto the market, or you're building a feature set, but midway through you realize that there's been a shift, in what customers, in what they do, and perhaps that particular feature set isn't necessarily needed. Understanding and saying, look, uh, I need to actually, I need to actually adapt to remain relevant to what I want to do in a commercial way. I think that's super beneficial. So just being able to just know and look at your changing environment and say, well,
Mhm.
if this is the best pathway to success, then that's the pathway that I should take. And that pathway might not be the same today as it was yesterday, and it might not be the same pathway tomorrow. Like, so just being able to adapt and being nimble, that's one big thing that I've learned. And then the other thing that I've learned, and this is not just for innovation, it's for literally every situation that you can find yourself in, every context. Everything is people.
Mm.
Whether you're talking to funders, customers, business partners, colleagues, family, friends, everything is people. And the better you are at engaging with people, like having a high EQ, uh, being able to just adapt to various situations, with various kinds of people. I think that will carry you very far, socially, professionally.
Mm.
I think that's the way that you'll probably have a lasting impact. So yeah, so the other thing that I've learned in those 5 years is people, because the founders that we work with, if you can't have a good relationship with the founder that you're working with, you're not going to add value, and there will be no mutual benefit for you to sponge off of. So I think learning how to deal with people is a big part of what I've learned. Even just also, after moving over into VC, one of the things that became quite evident is that you're only effective in VC,
Mhm.
truly effective, when you have a good network of people that you can draw on, that believe in you and what you're doing. Um, so, just building out that network, and finding people that I could speak to who resonated with me, and vice versa. That was key, I think, and it still is key, and it's something I'm still pushing hard to keep on growing. That's
Mm.
yeah. So it's people are important.
Nice. So it's quite similar, probably, when you said to startups that they need to have like a group, like a good group of team members, that they have a good fit, and that you can extrapolate it to the fund as well, because you also need a very good group of people to uh, allow you to manage correctly all of the startups. And if you can tell us a little bit about the fund investment thesis, what are the areas of expertise? What are you looking in a specific startup? Like trying to understand a little bit more where you
Right.
invest
Yeah.
all of the money.
So again, I'd like to, in answering this, I'd like to dial it back.
Okay.
uh, so uh, just to understand, like, why we are where we are, and why our focus is what it is. So Savant was actually started in 2004 by Nick and Kate. I joined in 2017, so there was a whole history that happened before that, and Francois contributed greatly from, I think, 2010 or 2013 onwards. So the four of us are the four partners in the venture fund. Um, so Nick and Kate started in 2004, right? And both had MBAs. In fact, they met on the MBA. Kate had a PhD, a biosciences PhD, and Nick had a civil engineering degree. And they wanted to do sports. That being their skill sets, they wanted to support science and engineering based innovations. Um, and at that point, like, raising a fund was, it's VC has only really picked up in South Africa in the last five or so years. And 10 years ago, it was tiny. There were only
Mm.
like a handful of players, and so you can imagine 2004. Saying you're going to focus on supporting hardware technology, science and engineering based innovations, was, trying to raise a fund for that was probably quite far fetched, but they stuck with their grit. And over the years, they managed to build a significant portfolio of ventures that supported. Some went on to trade internationally. Some did really well in Europe. The biggest success that we like to talk about from those early days is Liat Corp. They're now listed on the Nasdaq. And that's a South African-born company that still does its its R&D out here in Cape Town, it's just a fantastic story. And so over the years, building up the portfolio with these really credible opportunities, and still, at the time, focusing on. So Francois, also an engineer with an MBA, focusing on science and engineering-based technologies, and so that became the thesis. And having built, that level of experience with early stage, like deep tech companies for so long, it only made sense that is where the focus should be in the future. And we've actually built a niche in that. In that we're probably the only science and engineering combination of both incubation and VC, and having a 18-year track record to back that up, across the continent. So it really carved out a niche for us. And so when it came time to raise the fund, that's where the strength was. And so that's where we decided to go with the fund as well. And so where we are with the fund now, we predominantly as a first-time fund manager, looking at South African science and engineering-based innovations that can really test the market locally, have a dent locally, but have a significant impact in international markets. So we really like to take companies that are globally relevant and that we can really test the model, the business case, refine the technologies and that stuff locally, and then scale globally. So that's the idea. We see a lot of opportunities in other territories as well, and so we've actually started. Sorry, I need to just switch this off. Sorry. Okay, this is the doorbell. Where was I?
Everything what you have done with the fund,
right. Yeah, right. So we are starting to see a lot of opportunities inbound from other territories in Africa, and we've also done some research, and we found that there actually is significant opportunity outside of South Africa. And as a first step for us to actually explore those, we've started virtually incubating companies outside of South Africa. So we've got a very exciting early stage. So it's not necessarily fund ready just yet, but it's in our incubation portfolio, and it's a Namibian startup that's actually using sounds to determine machine health for maintenance and monitoring purposes. So there's some very exciting things, not just in South Africa, but like across the entire continent.
Nice. Yeah. How many funds have you raised from the beginning of the company till now? Like, you have a lot of different funds, or only 1, 2, 3? I don't know.
So as a VC fund in the traditional sense, we've got one. That's our fund one, which we are deploying at the moment, and that is a $10 million fund. And then in the incubator, we've actually got a seed fund, a technology development seed fund. It's technically a pre-seed fund, and it's a grant mechanism that we use to get technologies closer to market. It's a fantastic feeder for the venture fund. And then we also do corporate venture partnerships. So we've got one with Sibanye Stillwater, and we've got another one in the works. And that really allows us to help them bring value-added innovations into their value chain. That helps unlock opportunities. And what that offers the clients is both an early stage investor, who takes minority stakes only, but gives them access to an anchor client that has a multinational footprint. So we have a few things on the go. So in terms of traditional VC, we've got the one fund at the moment that we're busy deploying, and just to give you an idea of how busy we are across the group this year, we've done 18 deals.
Nice.
Wow. So all science and engineering, deep tech stuff. We get a lot of questions, and people are like, is there enough deep tech in Africa? I sat with somebody today, and as I was telling him what I was doing, he was like, I have a question. I was like, I know what your question is. And then I said that, and he's like, well, that's the question. And the truth is, like, there's more than enough. We've fielded, as a South African who's not doing a South African VC, focusing on this niche, that's not doing anything, any outreach whatsoever across the continent. We've had we've had people from other territories calling us and saying, can you help us? Can you help us as an incubator? Can you help us as a VC? Like we fielded, this year, we fielded about 300 applicants as a deep tech, very niche deep tech investor. Like that should tell you, how big the opportunity is. And that's without us really properly going to market and saying, please come to us. It's the market actually coming to us.
Nice. Thaheer, now I have questions that I get from a paper of Harvard Business Review to get an idea on how Savant Venture evaluates potential venture opportunities, right? So these are questions that they have done it to different partner managers from different kind of venture funds, and I will try to address these questions to you so you can tell me, like, in general terms, how you do it. Okay. Alrighty. So first question is, how do you evaluate potential venture opportunities?
So we have a pretty standard process. So people approach us either directly or through a referral network, you name it. And then what we do is we go through an initial screening process, is it deep tech? If it's just if you've only got an app or a B2B marketplace, it's not really for us. If there's no hardware component to it, we're probably not going to look at it as or at least as intensely as we would. So from there, somebody looks at it and they say, well, okay, cool, this is interesting. I'm going to table it at the weekly deal flow meeting. So at the weekly deal flow meeting, we'll then pitch it to the rest of the team. This is why we think it's interesting. And, if there's high level buy-in, you go on, you have your conversations with the founders, find out a little bit more. And then at that point you come back and it's you've got a proposition. You're like, I think this is what we should be doing, and this is why. And then from there, we draft a paper, a very brief paper, take it to our first IC, investment committee, get feedback, and then from there we go back. And if we think things are looking good, we head into deeper due diligence, and then we go back, structure the deal and everything, go back to the final investment committee, have the startups then pitch to the investment committee and field the questions, and then go back, and then they'd exit that session, and then we'd go further, deliberate and conclude, and then we head into contracting and that sort of thing. So that's the process. The evaluation, it covers everything from commercial to governance to macro trends to local markets versus international markets. How is this company going to get to market, and then do the economics of that make sense? Where are they in this stage? Is the technology ready to go to market now? Is it in 6 to 12 months? Is it longer? In going to market, is the current technology stack enough, or do they need to add innovations on top of that to unlock new value adding opportunities? How is the team? Team is most important at this stage, because if you have a bad team, it doesn't matter what kind of technology that you have, the business could still not go anywhere. So how strong is the team? How coachable are they? That's super important as well. That's actually one of our one of our key criteria is, how coachable are these people? Are they going to ask for help when they need help? Are they going to take advice when we give advice? We're not saying that we're always right, but if you're somebody who's not willing to learn, then we're probably not going to support you. So those are the things that we look at, and then also the IP and the technology stack. We go into a little bit of depth about that. What sets that particular technology apart, and how difficult is it for somebody to come in and replicate that? How many months or years ahead are you of the competition, and that sort of thing. So yeah, so the sustainable competitive edge, I guess, that's quite important to us. So we look at everything.
I believe that with all of that you have said, you just kind of answer all of the questions that I had, but
Oh, sorry.
but if I can, like, trying to get, like, for example, what kind of due diligence do you conduct specifically? Because you say government, commercial. Do you like analyze like the financial statements of the company? Like what startups can expect from you guys?
So, I mean, when we get to that proper due diligence stage, we're talking to your customers, we're talking to your team members, we're talking to your other investors. We have to do that. We are we're looking at your financial statements. We're trying to say, like, what does your balance sheet look like? What do your cash flows look like? How long is it going to take for you to break even? What is the hole that needs to be filled for you to achieve certain revenue numbers? Like, how plausible is that based on the conversations that we have with your vision, with looking at your strategy, looking at your roadmap, looking at the customers that you've onboarded, and the customers that you want to onboard, looking at your team composition. So we look at all of that. Like, if you've got patents, we read through the patents. If there's a big software component that drives your competitive edge, we've got preferred partners that we bring in, but we've also got the in-house skills now to actually look at your code, to look at your infrastructure, and to say, well, this makes sense. So we even go as far as going into your GitHub repositories. Like how accessible is it? Who owns that particular account? If you got an AWS, is it your supplier that owns the account? Is it you that own the account? What's the pathway to getting that for you to own the account? Is it feasible? Is it not? Like, so we look at everything. It's quite thorough. That's one of the reasons why we leave the last part of the DD, that big DD section, to after our first investment committee. Because if we don't think it's going to fly, we don't want to go through all of that. So we get through the first investment committee sitting, and then we delve a little bit deeper. We do that on a light level though, before that first investment committee. So we'd typically have a due diligence checklist, and in that checklist, it's basically a data room requirement, and you submit all that stuff, and we'll give it a read through. And ask you a few questions to start, about how things are, and then delve even deeper in that next round.
Okay, so in terms of the funding decision, like the process is, the startups arrives to you analyze it, then afterwards you send it to, if it's correct for you, and somehow it's okay with your thesis fund, you send it to the IC. IC will give a go, and then afterward, how actually, like the process that it's like the following process.
So that first IC, we call it the socialization, because we socialize the idea of the startup to them. Usually we don't take things to the IC that we think aren't going to make it, right? So we got to make sure that it's going to make it before we do that. at that first IC, it's usually feedback on potential challenges that they could see, because they're quite experienced. We got some a broad array of experienced investors on our IC. So we rely on that experience for them to say, well, you've missed this, or this particular deal for this reason. You need to actually think about structuring it this way, not that way. So at that point, it's sort of like, we kind of know that it will fly if we address particular issues. So getting to the final IC is us really addressing those issues and digging on the due diligence side, just to validate and make sure that we haven't missed anything, and addressing all those other items that I mentioned in detail. And then that final IC, it's the startups get to bring their A game, and after they leave, we sort of deliberate, and we back them up and we justify, and then there's a vote with the IC, and then pretty much at that point, we'd have a pretty good idea, whether it's going to go forward or not. But then the decision happens then, and if it's a positive decision, then we move into the next phase, which is usually contracting and that sort of thing.
From that decision or the contract, what is the timing of the startup receiving the funds?
So it really depends, and so if you've got, so sometimes startups come to us and they've gotten, and we've seen that this year, right, where they've gotten like 5 to 6 investors on the cap table already, and sometimes those investors may have a significant stake, and so and depending on how they've contracted previously, they kind of have a say in what happens. So and sometimes they're also just strategic for follow-on rounds, so you want to keep them happy. So those investors do sometimes get involved, and when they get involved, it's like lawyer to lawyer, and then you gotta it becomes a balancing act of keeping everybody aligned and happy, and that process can take long depending on who's involved and how sticky they are on certain things. So that can stretch things out. When we go at it alone and it's a clean cap table, it can be anything from 2 to 4 weeks to wrap that up. But we've seen things go as long as 4 months sometimes when there's a complicated cap table. It does take a little bit longer. But generally we try to be quick. Our part is usually quite quick. But then there are a lot of external factors. The more people there are, then things just drag out.
And Thaheer, talking about the risk, what role does the risk play in your evaluation?
Risk is everything. So the riskier the business, the more we're going to be inclined to structure the deal in a certain way rather than another way. So, and it's difficult, right? Because look, let me just say a little bit more broadly rather. Risk is always a factor. It impacts the valuation, but it also impacts the way we do deals. And sometimes, when we feel there's a need, we try to mitigate that risk in the contracting, and that's not just it doesn't just impact what the deal looks like, but it also impacts how the entrepreneurs behave. Sometimes depending on what the risk that we see is, we structure the deals in particular ways, just to help them out. The idea is always to protect our investors. That's the fundamentals of it. I think we're managing other people's money, also our own money, but most of it is other people's money. So we have to look out for their best interests 24/7. At the same time, we do also try to be founder friendly. So it's quite a balance that we have to walk. And being founder friendly sometimes uh, is managing risk in the best interest of the business. Because when the business succeeds, it's better for the founders, it's better for the investors, it's better for everybody.
Of course. And in terms of succeed, do you, when you invest, are you expecting a 10x increase on your investment, or are you thinking always on the startup having an exit?
Oh, we only invest with the idea that we're gonna have an exit, and I mean, we try to aim for 10x plus, but the reality is not every investment will do that. But we aim for what we believe are the outliers. We're gonna have the highest possible returns, and then we take it from there. But the idea is we invest with an idea of what's happening and what could happen in that environment in terms of where the business is going and how they could then exit as a result.
All right, perfect. And the last question that I have to you about like Savant, you already mentioned that you have a lot of startups that are reaching out to you, but how can startups can get in touch with you right now?
Wow, that's easy. I've my LinkedIn. Just add me on LinkedIn. So it's LinkedIn. Oh, there we go. Thanks for that. LinkedIn.com / my name. Just search for Thaheer Mullins and you'll find me on LinkedIn, and I'll probably add you back if you add me. But drop me a message there. Otherwise, you can also email me. And that is my name at savant.co.za. So that's THAHEER at Savant, savant.co.za. I do have a Twitter account. I'm hardly on it. But it's, how does this work? It's twitter.com / the nappy head, one word. And that's me. Yeah.
I'm adding those to the comments so everyone will have access to your Twitter account and LinkedIn. Is there anything else about Savant that you would like to tell everyone that I haven't asked you?
I think it'll be interesting because we are exploring, like who's out there in the rest of the continent, across the rest of the continent. So it'll be quite interesting if you're an ecosystem builder or an ecosystem player, and you are looking for a partner to collaborate with. We definitely believe in collaboration. We've done about I said 18 deals across the group this year. I don't know if I said that earlier, but that's what we've done. And if I count, I would say 60 to 70% of those, or co-investment, so there's a big we have a big emphasis on collaboration. And so if you're across the continent, you're looking for the right partners, or even if you're thinking about deep tech and just want to have a chat, talk to us. We like having conversations, let me put it that way. We like investing and supporting entrepreneurs, but we also like having conversations.
Alrighty, very good. So we are arriving at the end of our show, and we're going to move on to topic number 2, that is called trigger questions or ping pong questions. So the idea here is to hear that you answer with short answers, and we have 5 questions.
Okay,
Are you ready?
I think so.
Alrighty. What's your purpose in life?
Uh, my purpose, it's to help people. It's to help, and the best way that I can help is um, through my position in the ecosystem at the moment. So that's the strongest way that I've been able to help people. But my my position is to help. So when people come to us, even when it's not a good fit, um, I still talk to them, and I tell them who else to go to. Or I'll say, maybe you need to think about this, or this is not a great approach for this, that, and the other. So it's helping people. That's my purpose.
Nice, very good. What do you appreciate most in life?
What do I appreciate most in life? I think just being alive and healthy. I think that's great. I just think back on just the journey to get here, and things could have gone sideways so many times for a variety of reasons, and just to be here, to be able to just be of sound mind and have this conversation with you, I think that's just amazing. So
Excellent. What has been your biggest mistake made to date?
not being honest with myself or open with myself. So because very early on, I didn't really deal with my feelings. I didn't really talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, what hurt me, what didn't hurt me. Those things are important, just vocalizing those, right? And because I didn't do that, I wasn't in tune with myself. Because I wasn't in tune with myself, I studied things that, led me to a roundabout pathway to where I am now. And I think if I was very focused and honest and in tune with myself early on, I would have made different decisions, and I would have been here maybe 10 years ago. But you learn, you live and you learn.
Quite interesting answer, Tahir. What person from the business world do you admire and why?
Off the hip. So it changes all the time, right? Depending on the phase of life that I'm in. And right now, this is going to sound weird because I know the person, but there's a guy, his name is right now Sylvester Albani. I just looked at his journey and where he came from and what he's doing in a very similar space like right now, and the success and how he's built himself and his network over the years. I really admire that man. Just to come from the environment that he came from to being in the environment and having the mind and the space that he has now, it's fantastic to see.
Can you put his name on there's a private chat on your right, and
Okay.
we can send his name to everyone so everyone can look his name on the web to see what he has done. That would be great.
Just want to make sure I spell it correctly.
Yes.
There we go. There we go, in the private chat, and there's a link to his LinkedIn as well.
Okay, let me add that. And the link. The link, here it is. It's taking, yeah. There it is. It's taking a while, but yeah, there it is. Alrighty, so last question for you is, what is your biggest fear in life, Tahir?
I don't know, actually. I think it's more not leaving something behind for the generation that comes after me, because I've seen what happens when people have something to leave for somebody else as just a foundation, right? So some people are born into environments where they have foundations, and that catapults them, So they don't start um, off on the back foot. They hit the ground running, so I think my biggest fear is not being able to do that. I think for those that come after me.
Nice, very nice. And bonus track,
Oh,
general recommendations of books, movies, series, or podcasts that you believe that the community of this show must somehow take a look.
so the two podcasts. One is it's very South African focused, right? But when you listen to what the people talk about their journeys and how they thought about the decisions that they made, it's actually quite beneficial to anybody. And it's called Two Ways to Skin a Cat. The host is Uwais. Um, so it's the name is Two Ways to Skin a Cat. And then the other one, which is a little bit more broader and things, it's called Foundering. I think it's a really cool podcast. And I think there's actually one more. It's called Sin Malditas Excusas.
Amazing, amazing. Do you have any? You mentioned that you like to read when you were young.
Oh man.
What book has changed your perspective of everything? If you can recommend one.
Yes, but I don't read as much as I used to, but because of time, because I'm doing quite a few things now. But the one book that really changed things for me, and I still find myself, I need to actually get it and read it properly again. But I still find myself sometimes drawing from it. It's The Art of War by Sun Tzu. So there are all these learnings. It's all about military tactics, but it ends up being stuff that you use socially, you use in business. I mean, things like they would say, reach the battlefield before your enemy because it unsettles them, right? So what that means is you go to a meeting early and you're about to do a negotiation. Be there early and be ready, you know. So it unsettles your opponent. So things like that, it's quite interesting. When people think that you're gonna have a direct approach, come from the side, so you can gear up a conversation so that people think you're gonna have a particular approach, but and they've prepared for that, but then you've got this alternative approach that actually gives you an edge. So those are the things like The Art of War. It's actually beautiful, and that is life changing, and it touches on everything. You can apply it wherever you go.
Very good recommendation to uh, read again. If you haven't, take a look at that
Yes.
book. And the last thing to hear that I ask everyone that is part of this show is if you somehow could share like a message to humankind, and here I'm going to put you on a spotlight, like first screen just for you, that you can address to everyone. What kind of message would you say to the world, to young generations, to all humanity?
Uh, this is a tough one. I think be genuine to yourself, and in so you'll be genuine to others, and in being genuine to yourself and others, you'll be able to create opportunities for growth, personally, professionally, whatever it is that otherwise wouldn't be as apparent. I think just be genuine, be honest, be in tune with yourself and your emotions, and I think that is the best. I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself and for those around you.
That's
You
a
just
wrap.
you disappeared from the screen, and I wondered if you were going to come back.
That's amazing, Thaheer. What a great conversation we just had. Thank you very much for your time, for being so honest and sharing all of your experience with everyone. Connecting from here, Santiago, Chile, South America, and Africa. It's an amazing thing. It has been great. I love it. Thank you very much for your time, and see you soon in a new chapter of No Damn Excuses.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much for the platform, and I really do like. I love what you're doing, and please keep doing it. Don't ever stop.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.